Coaching Soccer Weekly, episode 324 Building a Defensive Structure. Entertaining, educational, and inspiring soccer content to help make you a more effective coach, player, or soccer parent. Hello and welcome back to Coaching Soccer Weekly, presented by World Class Coaching. My name is Edward Benedict, and this is the podcast devoted to bringing you cutting-edge methods, techniques, and tactics of coaching soccer. It doesn't matter if you're an experienced coach that's been training teams for many years, or if you're new to coaching and working with a team for the very first time. There's something we can all do to take our coaching to the next level. So I have to start by apologizing. There were 2 episodes that didn't go through on the website, so there were some issues uploading them, but I fixed them, and I will make sure to continue to check moving forward, and hopefully this doesn't happen again. So apologies for that, but it's all fixed now, and I would go back and listen to those episodes because they build a foundation for what we're going to be talking about today and moving forward. Before we move forward, let's talk about today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is VO. If you are looking to upgrade your club, academy, team, whatever it is, VO is a really great way to take your team to the next level. I use it with my players. It's a really good camera that goes really high up in the air, has a 360 view. And honestly, every Monday, that's what I use with my players to analyze the game. And it allows the players to see their mistakes, see what they did well, and allows us to build on it moving forward. The code is CSW100 to get a discount on it. So please, if you're looking for it and you're going to buy it, please use it. If it doesn't work, please send me an email and let me know that it's not working. But it should be working as of now. So VO, you are the best. And yeah, this weekend we didn't have any games, but what a weekend. I have to apologize because I didn't talk about this huge event that was happening this weekend, and I didn't really know about it till the day of. And it was the Champions League final for the women's Champions League final. What a game. Barcelona, Lyon, fantastic. Just really great. I went in there really wanting to analyze Barcelona because from what I've heard, they are the most dominant team in women's football right now. So what a fantastic game. Lyon took the game 3-1, and it was really great. You know, I kept kind of thinking, let's try and see the upside of the way Barcelona played, and they played really well. They kept the ball in a certain way, but at the end of the day, Lyon just got the job done, and that's credit to them. My favorite thing about that was that there's a Canadian on Lyon, and she's one of my favorite players. Buchanan is a defender who, in my opinion, whenever I've seen her for Canada, I think she's one of the best defenders in the world. So for her to come off the bench, I don't really know what the story is behind that. I don't follow Lyon, so I couldn't tell you if she's a starter or not. But from what I've seen, she is by far the best defender I've seen in the women's game in a very long time. So really surprised to see her coming off the bench due to an injury. I kind of thought she would just play the full game. So that was really interesting. And that was just Saturday. On top of that, we had a really big storm that cut all the power for where I live, which is Aurora in Ontario, and most of Ontario as well. And kind of brought some flashbacks of living in Kansas, which was really, really great. But I didn't have power, so I couldn't watch the game on Saturday night, which I wanted to after I was out all day. So came back wanting to watch the Women's Champions League game, so ended up having to wait till Sunday morning, watch that game. Then went to training, and before that actually, I went to I started watching the Manchester City game because, as you know, I'm a huge Manchester City fan. And what a night. What a day. Just an incredible way to end off the season. It's been a week, so there are no spoilers right now. But I went to training not knowing what happened in the second half. I left after the first half. And, of course, you know, I got my players into Manchester City, so they come in and they kind of tell me everything. And and spoil it. But I went back, watched it, absolutely fantastic. And then on Monday, we analyzed the game, which was really great. So super happy about Manchester City taking it home. And it was just a fantastic weekend of soccer. So last week, I spoke about wanting to do my UEFA licenses and that if any coaches out there from North America had some information about how that would be possible, to feel free to send me an email. So I got an email from a coach named Yosa, who coaches U10 and U11 girls team, and he sent me an email that I wanted to share with you. So he goes on to say that this summer he's scheduled to travel to Scotland to take his final portion of the UEFA C license, which is the in-person portion. And he goes on and talks about how he started getting involved with the Scottish FA. In deep COVID shutdown, I went through their entire grassroots catalog, and this summer it culminates with me hopefully coming back with my UEFA C. From a cost standpoint, the course itself set me back $550 in total when including international fees, and it has 3 portions. So phase 1 is $75, it's tactical. Phase 2 is a physical preparation, $110, and phase 3 is an in-person of $350. He shares the brochure of the C license that I will put into the show notes, and so that was kind of part 1. And then he goes on to say, expenses in Scotland will vary with what you yourself want. I lucked out with where my course will be held, down the street from the hotel and a 15-minute taxi ride from the airport. Air tickets, too, are probably the most expensive thing with travel rates and all that, and COVID rates. But other than that, it's been a very enjoyable process overall and cost efficient as well. He also encourages coaches to look at their talent ID pathway, which is absolutely fantastic and has been incredibly informative when speaking about player recruitment and scouting, and has been all online. So thanks, Coach Yosa, for reaching out. And it looks like the Scottish FA is one way to go. I also reached out to the FA, the English Federation, and they sent me an email back saying, unfortunately for the UEFA C, all learners must be actively coaching a team in season-long competition in England, meaning that the course cannot be completed online abroad. So if you were thinking about doing a course with the FA, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's possible. And again, I could be wrong, but this is the email I got from them. So looks like the Scottish FA is one way to go to do the UEFA C and eventually go into UEFA B and all the other UEFA licenses. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check in on in the show notes. And again, I will include the link to that. The past couple of weeks, I've been talking about a specific session that I've been doing with my players, and it was mainly half of a field, and we're going directional one way, and it's kind of like this rondo type game that we're doing, but it's really with the advantage of the attacking team, and we're going towards goal. So it's usually, it looks like we have 2 in the back, which is our center defenders. Then we have 2 on each wing and 1 player in the center. I've also done it with 9 players, so I really got the formation of what we would look like in a 9v9, which is that 4-3-1. And we're attacking one goal, playing against a certain amount of defenders. If the players win the ball, then they switch. And if you want more information on that, you can go back to last week's episode, or even the week before that, I think is when I started talking about it. As we continue to work, it seems like the players are really understanding their roles when they have the ball and when we're attacking, and when we don't have the ball, when they don't have the ball and we're still attacking. So it's been really great to watch the progression that our teams have been making. And what I've noticed with the 2010 teams is when we scrimmage, it looks really great. The 2012 and 13 team, there's still some work there, but I'm okay with that. So now the coaching points are essentially the same, and we've gotten into a really good rhythm. And now it's time for me as the coach to see what else I can do with it. And I really wanted to start to focus on defending with our teams because it's not something that I'm good at. I'll be completely honest. Even as a player, I hated defending. I was not a good defender, never was. Still, I'm really not a good defender. I remember there was a game, might have been a month ago, when I was playing with, I play with some friends on Sundays, and we didn't have a defender. So I went in, played defense, and within 3 minutes, they scored, and it was my fault. I can analyze that part of the game for sure and understand when I make a mistake. So as a defender, it's never really been my strong suit. And I think going through all the podcasts, you can really see that I'm a very attack minded coach, really want to have the ball and keep possession. Uh, and the defending that we do is 1v1 defending. And frankly, I wasn't good at that. So now I wanted to shift and really start to focus on team shape and what to do from a defensive structural point of view. So that's what today's going to be on. And just like the past 3, 4 episodes, this is kind of an introduction, especially for me as well. So usually the way that I start when I get into a new topic is I come up with some rules that I want my players to follow. And those rules are very general and apply all the time. And I'll start only coaching those small points. And from there, I watch and analyze how my players are doing in these situations. And then I find other small details and continue while also watching the teams, the professional teams, and what they're doing. So what we did on Monday was on our Zoom call, we watched Manchester City second half, and I really focused in my head a lot on what they were doing when they lost the ball. And with that, now I'm starting to develop a defensive structure for my team moving forward. So I wanted to share that with you. And again, this is probably just the introduction to it, and hopefully there will be more once I start to analyze more and get comfortable coaching that part of the game for my players. So before we talk about defense and the structure of that, we have to talk about attack, because the way that we're built as a team is to have possession. So we're starting with possession. Then we talk about what happens in that transition from attacking to defending, and then we talk about defending. So let's talk about our shape 9v9 when we have that ball. When we have that ball, we have 2 defenders in the center space. We have 3 midfielders, 1 on the half space on each side and 1 in the center space. Then we have 2 attacking midfielders who are in the wide space in line with the center forward. So it's a 2, 3, 3. That's the shape. So from here, we lose the ball. We can lose the ball in a lot of different places on the field, in a lot of different situations. And those situations are essentially going to create different movements from our players into that defensive shape. Now, I know I spoke about going from attack to transition, then to defense. But that transition part is really tough. So we need some sort of rule or two that we can use just to get our players in the right position for defending. So there are 2 ways to do this. There's one that we can start by talking about transitioning from defending, from attack to defense. Or we can just talk about defending and then go back to talk about that transitional moment. And I think that's what I'm going to do, simply because I always like to start at the end and then work my way backwards. And I spoke about that in a couple of episodes of that's just the way that I coach. So let's talk about the end product first of defending, how I want my shape to be. Now, when I'm talking about this with my players, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about the transition first, then defend, then how we're going to end up in that shape, because they're going to lose that ball first and foremost, right? And then they're going to get into that defensive shape. So there's lots of different ways to go about it, and it really depends on the activity that you're working with. And I'll share that with you a little bit more as we get in later and later in the episode. So let's talk about what the defensive shape looks like. The idea for me is this. I have my fullbacks and my attacking midfielders. They are playing one line up. So here's what I mean by that. My fullbacks, who are traditionally part of the defensive line when we're attacking, are part of the midfield line. My attacking midfielders, who are traditionally part of the midfield line, whether they're a little bit ahead or not, creating the triangle, whatever that is, not the point. The point is they're usually part of that midfield area. They are now part of that forward line. As soon as we lose the ball, I want them to go back into their traditional lines. So as soon as my attacking midfielders, as soon as we lose the ball, and when we lose the ball, they're in the wide space, and they're part of that forward line, they should go back into the midfield line, into the half space. That is their traditional positions. Same thing with our fullbacks. Our fullbacks are part of the midfield line when we attack. So when we lose the ball, they're going to drop back into that defensive line, but I do want them in the half space. I do not want them in the wide space. I want them in the half space because I don't mind if teams attack us from the wing. And that is the shape. The shape goes into a 4-3-1. That's the shape on defense. And that is the formation. We're playing a 4-3-1. 4 defenders, 3 midfielders, 1 forward. That's my defensive shape. Let's take that a step further. Okay. What I want from my defensive shape and the communication that I want is I want my players to first and foremost say something along the lines of keep the line. Okay. So as soon as we lose the ball, I should be able to see 3 lines: defensive line, midfield line, and forward line. So I want one of our players to say something along the lines of keep your line, keep your line, keep your line. That's the first thing that we want. We want to get into that line. And what we're doing is we're essentially creating 2 walls. I'm creating 2 walls in which I do not think the opponent can get through, because that is the first step. I want to make sure that the players that are attacking us can't get through, and the best way to do that is through creating tight walls that are close together. And we do that by making sure that from one half space to the other half space, everything is locked down. There's a player in each half space. So the way that I divide it is half space, center space, half space. I cut the center space in half, so we have 4 half spaces. And in each of that half space, I want a player there. That's going to give us the best chance of not getting through balls, because the wider you are from each other, let's say I had one player in the wide space, one player in the center space, and the half space is empty, it's easy to get that ball through the half space, whereas now the space is in the wide space. That's where there's space for the opponents, and we're going to obviously change that because the team shifts back and forth. So when the ball is on one side, we shift one half space towards the strong side. When I'm going through this, I'm really thinking about how I would play against this. And I'm really trying to find different ways and different things that I would do as a coach if I were to encounter this 4-3-1 line. And with focusing so much on my attack, I know exactly what I would do if I'm facing that 4-3-1. What I would do is I would have my winger support the ball back, and they would now be part of essentially that middle three line. And we work the ball with our two defenders. Those are our quarterbacks, which was on the episode last week. So the defender on, let's say, the left side is waiting for the winger to come to support, making a short run backwards to try and pull out the defender. My defenders won't get pulled, so they're going to stay in that back four line, because if they get pulled, then they're going to get a ball over their heads, which we don't want. Then that defender is going to make that pass to the winger. At that point, when the ball goes to whichever side, doesn't matter, but as soon as the ball hits the wide space, which is where we want it, that's our team trigger to press that ball. And the way that we are pressing is we are shifting, again, to the strong side, 1/2 space. So if you think about that shape, that defensive shape that we spoke about, that 4-3-1, there are 4 players on the half space. My fullback, my attacking mid on each side. So 2 on each side, 4 total. We have 4 players in the center space, the 2 defenders, center mid, and the attacker. As soon as that ball goes to one side, now what happens is the 2 players on the half space shift over to the wide space. My defender shifts over to the half space on the strong side. My center mid shifts to the strong side half space. My attacker, my forward, shifts over to the half space and cuts off the passing lane backwards to the defender. And now at this point, our weak side fullback and attacking mid shift to the center space. And now we should have numerical superiority on the strong side. And at that point, we unleash our 2 wide space defenders to the player with that ball. And I want you to imagine the image of a dog chasing a ball. As soon as that ball is thrown, that dog is intense, fast with speed, and it's pretty scary if you saw a dog running at you at that speed. That's the pressure and intensity that I want my opponents to feel at that moment. They should be seeing 2 players coming at them, one from in front of them and one from their side, just ready to, take them out. That's really what we want. We want that intensity to push them back. And as soon as they look back, they're not going to be able to go back. Why? Because my forward is cutting off the passing lane. If my forward doesn't cut off the passing lane, we're not able to win that ball. They can now switch that ball, which is fine, is not the worst deal, because it gives us time to, again, shift. And we have players on that weak side ready to shift as well. So if that ball gets back to the defenders, everyone gets back into that 4-3-1, and we're not pressing. We're not pressing because there's really no reason to, right? We want to win that ball, and we want to be able to win that ball and keep possession. And the only way to keep possession is with numerical superiority, which we've talked about in the past. So if I just start throwing players at the ball, takes away our shape, takes away our numerical superiority, and that's just not what we want. So now that we kind of know our defensive position, we got to go back and talk about that transition part. And I got to be honest, that's something that I'm struggling with. Because if you've listened to me in the past, I like absolutes. I like to work with rules that are absolute. And it's really tough to do that when you can lose the ball in so many different parts of the field and have so many different priorities that change wherever you lose that ball. Again, if I lose that ball in my half, the priority is going to be very different than if I lose the ball in the opponent's corner flag, right? In the wide space in the final third in their half. It's just going to be different based on where you lose that ball. Well, if we lose the ball in the wide space, that to me is the safest place to lose the ball. And if we lose the ball there, I'm okay with the closest player attacking that ball, trying to win it back. Why? Because if that ball gets through that player, it's not going to be dangerous. Doesn't really matter where. If that ball stays in the wide space, the other team can't score. You're not going to get any goals from the wide space. Yes, you can get crosses in if if you cross that ball to the center, but I'm talking about strictly having the ball stay in the wide space. So what does that mean? It means that if we're pressing the ball when we lose it, and we should be losing the ball in the wide space. Why? Because that's where we're attacking from. So most of my attack should be lost in the wide space because that's where most of the possession and most of the 1v1s are going to take place. Sorry, it's not most of where the possession is. Most of the possession is probably going to be with my two defenders switching that ball, but we have an advantage. We understand the concept of safety. So the 1v1s are really going to be where we lose that ball, and that's going to be in the wide space. So if we understand that the wide space is where we want that ball to be, it seems pretty evident that when we're pressing, we got to take away the center space. So we have to, as soon as we lose the ball, take away the center space. And that, to me, right now, is really the only point that I want to make to my players. As soon as we lose the ball, let's cut off the center space and make sure that we're pressing through the wide space. And that's pretty much where I'm at. It's going to get a lot more detailed throughout the more training that I do because, as mentioned before, the more that I do things, the better you get at them, right? That's the repetition part of the game of coaching that I love. I absolutely love repetition. So now I'm able to focus on this. But there's actually one more thing that I really wanted to talk about, and that's how high should your line be? For me, the idea here is we want to create situations that are tempting for the opponent. So if I want them to play long balls, then I need to create situations where they're going to see opportunities that they think are going to be great for them to get those long balls. If I don't want them to play long balls, then I'm going to do the opposite and create more situations where they see no possible way to play long balls into our half. The bigger space that you create between the goalkeeper and the last defender, the more chances that the opponent is going to play those long balls. So if I wanted them to play long balls against me, and one of the reasons could be that my defenders are insanely fast. So I know that any long ball, my defenders are going to be able to get it, right? So that's going to be a reason for me to let them play long balls. I don't mind, right? If I know my defenders are fast, let's do it. There are other reasons that I would not want them to do that. Maybe my defenders are slow, right? Maybe my defenders are big, strong, but really, really slow. So I know that any short passes or any 1v1s that they're going to be attempting on them are really not going to work. So why would I risk those long balls? The other thing you have to consider is your goalkeeper. What type of goalkeeper do you have? Do you have a goalkeeper that likes to sweep out of the back, that can easily control a ball in the air, that has great distribution like Ederson, right, in Manchester City? We see him playing very high up from his goal because any long ball he can get to first, and he can use his feet, chest, or head and really keep possession for Manchester City. So those are the things that you really have to consider with your team.
Usually I record the podcast on Tuesdays, and then Wednesdays when we have our training session, and then Thursday I just kind of go back and see if there are any changes that I need to make for the show. And so we had training yesterday. Now is Thursday. I started the podcast recording on Tuesday, and I did notice some things yesterday when I ran this session that I wanted to talk about really quick. So everything that I said earlier applies, but the one thing that I really noticed that I wanted to concentrate on when we were defending in what I'll talk about next was the ability to force the team wide. And only when the team goes into the wide space do we press. So I actually didn't have my forward pressing when the two defenders were kind of playing that quarterback role that we've talked about in the past. So they were moving that ball from side to side, and that's fine. And what we were doing was we were trying to force them to play wide, and only then did everybody shift to the wide space. Sorry, everyone shift to the one half space towards the strong side and then press the ball. This had a really good result. We outnumbered the opponent every single time we were in the wide space. The only thing we really have to work on was preventing that pass from going backwards to switch. Even if that happens again, it's not that big of a deal, but we really tried to force them wide, which was really, really great. What I ended up doing was what we've been doing for the past, I want to say 3 weeks, is I ended up having used a half, so just one half. We then separated the field into wide space, half space, center space, half space, wide space. So there were channels with cones to show the players where the spaces are. And then we played 9v9 with the older session. We played 7v7 with the younger session. And there we were really able to see and work on keeping possession in the opponent's half and then defending in our half as well. As soon as the defenders got the ball, it was that transitional element of can our fullbacks and our attacking mids, can they transition into our bigger shape? And it was the exact same thing when we lost the ball. Can we transition into the lower space and really focus on getting the fullbacks back in line with the defenders, with the center defenders? And can we focus on getting the attacking mids who are in the wide space acting as kind of wingers? As soon as we lose that ball, can they come back in line with our center midfielder? Now, I started to also have the weak side players support even more, especially in the midfield line. And also I started to do that with the weak side center defender and also with the weak side fullback as well. When we played the game, what I noticed, like the scrimmage at the end, what I noticed most was that we were getting beat on defense with that ball over the top to the wingers. So we really have to work on making sure that our defenders have enough space in the back so that doesn't happen. And I think that's what I'll talk about on Friday. Thanks for listening to another episode of Coaching Soccer Weekly. Defending is really not my strong suit as a coach, so I have to work extra hard to make sure that my team has a plan. And now that we're starting from that, I feel a lot more confident about our team's defending, but we have a long way to go when it comes to defending. This weekend will be our first weekend of outdoor games. I got to be honest, I'm really nervous about what this season is going to look like. I have absolutely no idea what these teams, their skill levels are. There are some teams that I do know, but most of the teams, I just have no idea where they're at. So pretty nervous, but we'll see what happens, and I'll keep you posted. I'm going to be coaching our academy's home games, and then our other coaches will be coaching our away games. So I won't be coaching my 2012s, but I'll be coaching 2013s and both of my 2010 games. But until next week, enjoy the journey, enjoy the moments, but most importantly, enjoy the game. Coaching Soccer Weekly is a production of World Class Coaching. All rights reserved.